Hey, big head.
At Bear Creek, were you involved in any like plays, or were you in band? Were you anything other than sports?
Well, at Bear Creek, where you and I met, was the whole poetry world. And I think that's kind of like how a lot of people first knew who I was at Bear Creek. I like did this poem at an assembly. And it was a poem called Mixed Chicks.
Yeah. And you had the ripped black jeans on. You had some ripped black jeans.
I don't remember that.
I remember you had a backpack on. I think you had
when I did the poem.
Yeah, and then you had like a V-neck black shirt tucked in.
Oh
and then,
shit!
You know, you had your little phone and you're doing your poem and stuff.
So the Mixed Chicks.
Yeah. So, so what got you? So that actually leads into my next question. Like, what got you into poetry? And when did you start writing? Did you start writing and then eventually found spoken word? Did it kind of simultaneously find each other? How did it work?
Okay, so I'd been writing for a long time. Like I'd been writing just things for a long time. But what I always did as a kid, I'm saying like elementary school, I would write things. I would write my thoughts, my feelings, my dreams, all this stuff. And I'd rip them up and I'd throw them in the toilet and I'd flush them because I did not want people to know like how I felt or what I thought or any of that. And for whatever reason, it was so deep to me. Like it was a ritual. Like I'd lock the door and I'd take, time to rip up all this stuff and flush it. And then when I was going to Chavez is where I met, Alyssa, right? Alyssa Langworthy.
Yes.
She's like one of my favorite writers still to this day. And I heard Alyssa spit a poem at an assembly. And then I had her in my drama class I was in her drama class. She was doing it before I was. And I met her and our drama teacher was into spoken word and he liked Deaf Poetry Jam and stuff. And so one of our assignments actually was to memorize someone else's poem, and then perform it. And
whose poem? Whose poem did you memorize?
The poem I had, I don't even remember whose poem it was, but it was, I just remember that one of the lines was talking about anyway, I was like a woman looking for Black love. And I just remember part of it was, I should have never left blackplanet.com. Damn, something else. But I had been writing and then I heard her and I realized oh my God, I could say these things out loud to somebody. I didn't know that. And I just always thought of poetry when I went to therapy when I was a kid. And the therapist, I never spoke to her really. I didn't tell her my thoughts and feelings, but she would give me poetry books. And I had this poetry book and I would read it and I want to write poems. So I'd write poems, but I never thought I could say them out loud to people or that people would even listen to them or, whatever, or it could be that dynamic or that, emotion of evoking and till I heard Alyssa. And so I was writing and my dad heard me reciting my poems one time, in my room, I guess. And my dad's a musician. I grew up with him playing music my entire life. I have a poem that the beginning starts, my name is Jazzy and I grew up on drum circles, good morals, and Nickelodeon. And that's just kind of how I grew up with him. And I met Tama Brisbane in Stockton because I went to UOP with my dad as he was doing a gig and he was playing at University of the Pacific here. And he said, hey, there's this lady I really want you to meet. And I guess he didn't tell me that he knew I was writing poetry or any of that, but he knew. He was just listening at my door, I guess. And so that goes to show how much privacy you have as a kid, as a teenager, and I carried that notebook with me everywhere that I wrote in. And there were a bunch of scribbles in it. And I was with him because I was grounded. And I was grounded a lot when I was in high school and everything. And so I wasn't trusted to be at home by myself because I'd sneak out and do dumb shit. And so he took me to his gig and then he told this woman. And so this woman came up to me and she was like, Tama, but if anybody doesn't know Tama, she's a big personality and she will fill a room, just her essence of who she is. And I mean that in the most powerful, beautiful way possible. But to have that person coming up to you as a kid who feels like this small and just doesn't want to be seen, and writing poetry on her own was really intimidating. And she said, like, hey, your dad told me this and that you write poetry, and I'm actually going to get on stage and do some poetry, and I have some people who are going to do some. You should get on stage. And I was like, what? What? And she said, you probably have some poems with you right now. And like, I'm like, how do you know that? And I did, and I had poems with me, and and she said, okay, well, you're going to go on in about 10 minutes. And I was like, what?
Man, Tama's so famous for that.
She's crazy. And this is my first time meeting her. This is my first time. Like, I've never been on stage. I was, my dad would try to get me to like, I don't sing, but he tried to get me to like sing. Or
I know you don't sing. I know.
Yeah, I don't sing. People always think I can sing. I think because my name's Jazzy or something. I don't know. I have that look or something, but I can't. So I went to the bathroom as fast as I could, and I just like locked myself in a stall and opened my notebook and just like said these poems to myself like over and over and over as many times as I could in 10 minutes. And I went out there, and she like introduced me by my full name. And I said these poems. I don't think I looked up from my notebook once, but like I said 2 poems that day, and they, really, really rhymed. And, but they were so deep. They were like so deep because they were feelings I like really just felt that I needed to share. There was like, just feelings of just being alone, but like how much I loved people, but like feeling like I couldn't connect to them, and just all this stuff that I just, I want to tap into still sometimes. And I said these poems on stage, and I remember just feeling like a rush, just like of liberation. Like I felt so raw, but like in a great way. And I don't know if people like said anything to me or anything. I just felt like I wanted to hide after, but I also felt like, like empowered, like deeply empowered. And like, I can say what I feel. Like, cause remember, I didn't come from a place where I could say like what I think or what I feel or any of that. And to say it on stage in front of people, and for people to like say, or, whoa, like whatever, like some sounds or words or, grown like of affirmation and identification was a trip to me. It was crazy. And so, yeah, so that was not my first time ever. That wasn't my first time seeing, like my last time seeing Tama, that was my first.
Right.
And then it was after, because of like that whole rape thing and drugs and stuff, like I really can't remember a lot as far as timelines go in my like younger years. But it was all kind of like at the same time that I was just starting at Bear Creek, starting to do poetry. And then like at some point, somewhere along the lines, like I did that mixed chick poem, and did it at the assembly.